Hello everyone, and welcome to Room C's first panel of today, where we will all be discussing the future of personalisation. My name is Julia Ray. I am editor of Cosmetics Business, and I will be moderating this session. And I'm thrilled to be joined today by four expert panelists. So we have Dr. Jason Thompson from Skin and Me. We have Nicola Meldrum from Skin Trust Club. We have Emmanuel Moglin, founder of Experimental Perfume Club, and we have Samantha Dover, who's from Mintel. Hi, guys. To kick off, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company or the company you work for? Jason, you are closest to me, so I'm going to pick on you.
Great. Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Jason Thompson. So I'm a dermatologist and I work at a company as head of medical called Skin and Me. So for those of you that have not heard, Skin and Me is an online personalised prescription skincare company. We launched in 2019, so just as the pandemic was kicking off, and I've been there ever since we launched, or just before we launched. So what we do is, it's quite unique. There's not many companies doing it. We treat skin conditions, so slightly different to the cosmetic side of things, but I'll kind of talk about how we do across that as well. So we treat conditions like acne, rosacea, melasma, so hyperpigmentation disorders, all conditions that affect the face. And the way we're personalized is we create compounded formulations. So in dermatology for decades, we've been using ingredients, we mix them together and we make kind of personalized combinations. It's not usually done in medicine in other areas, but it's something that we have been doing in dermatology for a while because there's just not that many treatments out there. So this is what we do at Skin and Me. We make personalized formulations. People do an online consultation. We get photographs from them. We've got a dermatology team that have been trained up, and they'll look at the photos, they'll diagnose skin conditions, and then they'll make a personalized treatment. There's also a more cosmetic side of the business. So if you've got issues such as fine lines and wrinkles, more cosmetic concerns, we've got treatments for them as well. But ultimately, all of the kind of the treatment arm of Skin and Me is prescription medicine, so very different to the kind of cosmetic regulations. But I think it's still interesting, and there's still a lot we can talk about in the personalized area when it comes to the kind of medicine side of things, so I'll kind of cover that. But we also do moisturizers, cleansers, so I've got a bit of experience in the cosmetic sector as well, and the kind of regulations you have to follow, so I should be able to contribute into kind of how the personalization works in cosmetic as well.
Fantastic. And Nicola?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nicola, and I work for Skin Trust Club, which is an at-home consumer skin microbiome test. A skin microbiome test, essentially, you swab your cheek with a swab for 60 seconds, send it back to us. We analyze your skin in a lab and tell you your skin type, what your skin microbiome is, and give you personalized skincare recommendations that will work for your unique skin, which is quite revolutionary, really. The skin microbiome, for those of you that don't know, is a very complex ecosystem of microorganisms that live on your skin. It's made up of thousands of different bacteria and fungi. It's essentially your skin's first line of defense. So it's super important, and it's becoming apparent. It's a relatively new area of research, but it's becoming really apparent how important it is to skin health. And Skin Trust Club is powered by LabSkin. So LabSkin is a human-grown skin equivalent that we've been using to test cosmetic ingredients and formulations for over 15 years. So essentially, we validate claims such as moisturization, irritation, and for the world's leading cosmetics companies and also pharmaceutical companies. And most recently, we've been looking a lot at microbiome and those tests, so how friendly a microbiome product is to the skin microbiome. And we fed all of those results into our in-house technology and AI model. So essentially, we're bringing kind of science and tech together and using all of that knowledge that we've gained, we're bringing it to the consumer in Skin Trust Club. So that's what Skin Trust Club is in a nutshell. And I guess we're really excited to be part of this panel today because the skin microbiome is as unique to you as your fingerprint. So it really doesn't get much more personalized than that.
Fantastic. And Emmanuel, moving on from skincare.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah? Oh, sorry. Okay. So my name is Emmanuelle Meuglin, and I'm the founder and perfumer of a company called Experimental Perfume Club. So we're based here in London, so quite different to you guys. Obviously, we do perfumes, and the USP of what I've created is about creating your own perfumes. So you do that through different ways in the company. So a pure bespoke approach, which is very much through an experience. So you would come to a workshop, I will teach you from scratch, and so using ingredients, etc. So this is very much of an experience-led product. You end up with your own perfume, so that you've chosen all the way up from the ingredients, and I will show you kind of like professional technique or semi-professional technique to put it together. And so we also have the more bespoke approach, which is through a collection of fragrance which I created, so that you can blend them together. So eventually you can create your own perfume. So it's semi-bespoke, obviously, because we're not working from the ingredients all the way up. We're working from perfumes that I've created specifically so that they can be blended together, and the result is guaranteed. You end up with a perfume that is that smells nice. Obviously, that's the primary things, but also kind of gives the impression to the customer that it's been personalized. So this is what we do. We've got a boutique here at EPC London at Covent Garden. We also retailed in a couple of large retailers, Selfridges, etc. And growing up from here.
Fantastic. And Samantha?
So hi, my name is Sam Dover. I am a category director for beauty and personal care at Mintel. So Mintel are a market intelligence company, and essentially we have a huge range of different tools, but essentially what our kind of USP is that we are the voice of the consumer. So we are experts in what consumers want and why. So we track kind of consumer sentiment across, globally around the world. And then on top of that, we also have our global new product database where we track new product launches in the FMCG market. And so with that, we do track any kind of skincare, fragrance, you name it, any beauty launches on the market. So that helps us understand kind of those broader trends that we're seeing within innovation. And then we can kind of pair that with our consumer research to kind of get a full picture of the industry. So within that, I write and manage content cross-category, covering all sectors from skincare to retail within beauty. And I also work with Mintel's global clients. So we have a huge range of different clients, from kind of ingredient suppliers right through to kind of marketing agencies and brands, you name it. We work with lots of different people. So I'm here today to be the voice of the consumer more than anything.
Lovely. Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. It's a pleasure to have you here. So maybe for the first question, if I pick on you, Emmanuelle, as a brand founder, when setting up Experimental Perfume Club, how important was this personalisation aspect? It was very much at the core of what you were doing.
Yeah, so it was very much the core. So personalization in bespoke perfume is the USP of the company. So I started it actually it's grown very organically. It's a concept that I started on the back of a career as a perfumer. So I was working in a trade of perfume business for many years, and I was quite surprised about how disconnected the consumer was from ultimately the perfume. So most consumer buy it from like the brand, and so not necessarily from the knowledge of what's in the formula. So there is this disconnection still exists very much so, but it's something that is starting to become education around perfumery is starting to become more prominent, of course, than when I started 5-6 years ago. So when I started it was very much about this idea of like providing education to people. And I think for me, actually, personalization is education, and is one of the core for engaging with customers through helping them to personalize fragrance. So I would say it's one of the great thing about personalization, education, but is also one of the challenge. I think I'm sure we get to that point where we talk about challenge and how to go around that challenge of bespoke. But so and all the way from there. So for me, bespoke has very much been an adventure. I don't think bespoke is a formula, unfortunately. So it's something about talking constantly to your customers, understanding what they're looking for, what they like, and then changing your product from there. And unfortunately, it's not so much. I mean, my experience of bespoke, or my approach hasn't been like, here we go, I've created a product, do you want it or not? It's been, I created a product and constantly changing it, tweaking it, and making it better, and making sure that it's become more and more bespoke along the way.
Fantastic. So it's something of a journey there. And Jason, obviously being a skincare company, Skin & Me presumably takes a slightly different approach. Can you talk us through your model? You mentioned a couple of things there, but tell us exactly how the process works.
So I guess I'll start where we've got the customer in front of one of our dermatology teams. They're looking at photographs. The customer is giving them all this information about what they're wanting to treat. Is it acne? Is it fine lines and wrinkles? And we're getting lots of other information like what's their skin type? Are they sensitive to different skincare ingredients? Have they used a retinoid before? Have they had issues with using that retinoid before? And you piece all this together, and then you can work out what to prescribe the customer in front of you. So we've usually got ingredients like tretinoin, so kind of a powerful retinoid, but the kind of same principle it works for if you're doing cosmetic kind of treatments. So you then choose your strength. So any ingredient that's going to be potentially irritant to somebody, we'll tweak the strength. So we go as low as 0.006% for our tretinoin, all the way up to kind of the highest evidence base is 0.1, and then we'll add in other ingredients. So we usually use ingredients that kind of have multiple functions, so things like tretinoin and retinoids work for loads of skin concerns. You always hear about dermatologists banging on about retinoids. We love them. We've been using them for a long time for acne, for hyperpigmentation, for fine lines and wrinkles. So you'll usually find one of those hero ingredients. We'll also include other ingredients such as azelaic acid or niacinamide, and you're able to basically bring together these ingredients to give the customer the best outcome. If somebody's never had a retinoid, we'll usually start them low. If they've got sensitive skin, we might not use a retinoid at all. So the aim is you give somebody something that's going to work for them, give them the best chance of having a good outcome with minimal side effects. And the nice thing is that you can change it each month. So often we'll start low every month, the strengths will change, and people are on a bit of a journey, so a kind of a pathway almost of treatment. So that's kind of how it works from the prescription side. We're quite limited though in medicine because we need to do quite a lot of tests, a lot more. The bar's a lot higher for prescription medicines. We need to follow what's called the MHRA, which is the medicines regulator. Whereas cosmetics, obviously, you need to do the EU, the UK cosmetics regulations. You need to follow them. But the level of testing that we have to do involves using a machine called an HPLC machine. You actually have to prove that the percentage and the ingredient is in that product at the exact percentage that you say it is, and you have to show that it stays at that percentage over a set amount of time. So that has a big implications for like the shelf life of a medicine. So normally our shelf life would be like just over a month, because it's made fresh. The ingredients, we can't guarantee that they'll stay at those percentages over time. So that does have big implications. But if you kind of take that over to the cosmetic side, I think you definitely can personalize based on a questionnaire, based on photographs, based on basically speaking to your customer about what they want to achieve. Where it does get tricky, I think, is the regs, because although you don't have to do the testing to the same level, you still need to do all the labeling, you still need to do all the kind of the CPSR, and I hope there'll be some expertise here. I'm not really clued up on how they do it, but how do you do a notification on the portals or do a CPSR for one of the thousands or billions of combinations like other companies like Function of Beauty are doing at the moment? They're saying they can do one of 3.5 billion combinations in your custom serum. So I'd be really interested to understand how we can get around the regs.
Have a lot of
there.
people doing that behind
yeah,
the scenes.
it's a lot.
Fantastic. Nicola, Skin Trust Club, again, so you operate in the personalised skincare space, but in a different way. You work with brands rather than, kind of creating the products yourselves. Am I correct? Lovely. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about Skin Trust Club's approach?
Yeah, so Skin Trust Club's approach to personalisation is very much led by science. I think that a lot of personalization, at the beginning of personalization, it was trying to get some more information from the consumer. So it's photos and questionnaires and trying to understand their concerns. And I think Skin Trust Club has kind of brought this to the next level, in that we actually now can test your skin. And it's definitely an approach that we're led by science, because we're kind of letting consumers understand, trying to educate them on the science of the skin. As I mentioned, the skin microbiome and the effect that this has on your skin is very new. So it's trying to educate the consumer on their skin science, what's living on their skin. So our report will tell you exactly what type of bacteria are living on your skin. And this is good. It's a good thing that there's bacteria in your skin. A lot of people are kind of afraid of that. It's a very new concept. So they can understand the bacteria that's on their skin, and also in what quantities, and more importantly, how this dictates your behavior of your skin. It's actually being led by science is quite important, because it leaves you can't be subjective. There's no subjectivity in our process. We actually found that 63% of our users are consumers that use our tests. We asked them before they test their skin what skin type they think they have, and 63% of them got it wrong. So our skin test brought back and told them they thought they had oily, me included. I thought I had dry skin for 28 years, and I actually had oily. So it's quite there's no way really to know your skin type unless you test it. So it's something that we didn't realize was going to be such a huge part of our business. And I guess, as you mentioned, brand agnostic. There's such amazing brands out there, and we are just kind of more of a tool to try and help the consumer navigate that that market space that can be so confusing. There's so many ingredients, so many actives, so many different brands out there, messages. So I think that's kind of what differentiates us a bit in the personalized space, and that's what we're brand agnostic, so we have amazing brand partners, and we've got about 20 at the moment, and some of them are actually lab skin. Some of our founding partners are actually lab skin clients, and our latest brand partner is actually in the room, Tina and Meter over there in the corner. So that's kind of our approach.
Fantastic. I feel I can see this term education coming up again and again in this panel, right?
Yeah.
So Samantha, obviously beyond what's already been discussed, as our resident analyst, what interpretations of personalisation are we witnessing among some recently launched beauty products?
Yeah, I mean, they're so expansive, to be honest. It feels like kind of everybody is kind of testing the water. So we've seen some big moves from some big industry players, right through to kind of niche and indie brands coming through in kind of, for example, in skincare. We've seen, a big giant like Amor Pacific launch a brand called Custom and Me, which is a kind of personalized brand for people with sensitive skin. We've seen kind of smaller players come through like Veracity, who are doing hormonal testing now to kind of align that with skincare. On top of that, as we've kind of touched on, there are brands providing kind of personalised hair care, personalised soap, bath and shower, depending on the fragrance you want for those products. On top of that, you're seeing shade customization in things like makeup and hair colorants. So there's a huge amount going on, even just from a new product development perspective. But one area that I'm really interested in as well is this idea of personalising the consumer's kind of purchase journey. So how we discover products, how we reach the decisions that we make, and a lot of investment is going into personalization in that space. So it feels like, lots of different skincare brands now have kind of quizzes and kind of skin scanners to test to kind of recommend based on those kind of AI-powered analysis tools. Huge amount going on there. On top of that, we're starting to see the kind of next steps come through with that. So there's a brand in Japan, for example, that can predict your future wrinkles based on a scan of your skin and a whole load of lifestyle kind of questions. Sounds terrifying. I haven't tried it myself. I don't know if I'd want that. But so we're starting to see kind of the next steps come through. On top of that, even in things like makeup. So we've had things like kind of virtual trials coming through for quite some time. But Armani recently launched kind of Face Maestro, which is a device which can kind of essentially scan your skin, or an app, sorry, and provide you with kind of recommendations on how to apply products. So not only telling you the kinds of products that you should be using in your makeup routine, but also kind of how you apply those products to best suit your face, again powered by AI. So Yeah, there's a huge amount going on, and as I say, it kind of continues to evolve, and we're kind of seeing the next steps come through all the time, really.
Fantastic. A lot going on there. So can you guys tell me what you think it is about personalised or bespoke beauty that is so appealing to the end consumer? I don't know who wants to answer first, but...
I mean, I can jump in.
Sam?
Yeah, so I think, we've touched on it a little bit already. So I think all our research kind of tends to point to the kind of same kind of key factors that are driving. So it tends to be split down two kind of routes, which is why it is appealing to consumers. So the first is overwhelm. There are so many brands on the market now, and it's really hard to kind of decide what you're going to buy. The online channel has exacerbated that hugely. We have access to so many brands, no matter where you are in the world. You have so much choice. So we have an interesting stat as well in terms of around the confusion that people have when they start to kind of build their routines. So we've all become really accustomed to things like multi-step skincare routines. We've all added in serums and moisturizers and every other kind of treatment in between. And with that, we've got, in the UK, we have this stat kind of across Europe, but in the UK, 64% of women who use facial skincare products don't actually know what products work on their skin. So they don't know which products are making a difference. So that's just one example. On top of that, we have research around people buying products and being disappointed by them. So there's a huge amount of confusion, overwhelm, and then on top of that, what we're seeing come through more and more is that consumers really want that return on investment. They want to know that the products they're buying, whether it be skincare, hair care, and everything in between, what they want to know that it's going to do what they want it to. They want to know that it's going to work for them, and essentially personalisation just kind of helps narrow down the choices and helps consumers find the right products, basically.
Absolutely, and there's the experiential part as well. I mean, Emmanuel, I've been to your store in Covent Garden. I've walked away with a fragrance which I felt really reflected me and how I wanted to come across. So, do you find that your clients feel like there's that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Obviously, I don't have data backing, but I see clients every day coming in the door. The part that resonates the most with them is actually the experience that they're going through. So, so we've got two strands. The one that is from scratch upwards. I'm not going to talk about it because this is quite complicated, especially to scale it. But the one that is more the bespoke approach, essentially you come, you have like a quick consultation, you go through a selection of perfumes, which are minimalist fragrances, so they're very easy to read, and so people can then select 2 or 3 of their favorites, and then we show them possible blends. And so even though that process is semi-bespoke, because there could be, from those 9 fragrances, you can literally have thousands and thousands in possible combinations, but we narrow them down to 30, and we only show them 3 to 5 based on obviously their own journey. But really what clicks with people is that 20 minutes to 45 minutes, one of the challenge of course for brand, but that time spent with them. And what we can do with Lucky Perfumes is not as limited to skincare, so we can actually involve people in the making, because perfume is based in alcohol, so there is a lot less of like contamination, etc. But we can, following a little bit of basic health and safety procedures, make them actually blend it. And so that, of course, there is this connection happening with the product. People first understand what's in their fragrance because they have gone through the idea of like deconstructing it first by choosing the individual elements and then all the way through the process. And I think this is really, for me, this is what makes that experience the most successful and why people buy it.
Lovely. And Nicola and Jason, is this, would you agree with what the other guys have said, or is there anything you'd like to add to that with regards to how this appeals to the consumer?
I was going to say the overwhelm is a really important point. And since we've launched Skin and Me, a key thing in our research was, people just didn't have a clue what they were buying. What the whole makeup, the bathroom shelfie that you used to see kind of during lockdown, hundreds of products no one's really got a great idea of what they're doing. So having, it just makes sense, doesn't it, personalizing, getting the right product, the right ingredients at the right percentage or concentration for the individual customer. It just makes perfect sense. And now we've got the technology to do it. So I think it makes it's the right time to start doing personalization. And I guess the other thing that we haven't covered is the sustainability angle. So those shelfies, just so much waste, so many products that get thrown in the bin after you use it. You don't really know, is it working? There's a lot of waste, and we've really gone kind of down the stripped back skincare routine at Skin and Me. So we really believe that you've got your treatment product, your hero product that's got all the active ingredients you need for that treatment step, and the rest of your skincare routine is really simple. It's a moisturizer, a cleanser, and obviously sunscreen, because you can't have your skincare without a sunscreen. And that's it. It's 4 items, 4 products, and that's all anybody really needs. So I think just having those 4 just really allows you to strip it back, and it's much better for sustainability as well. So that's another key thing.
Yeah, I think as well, I think celebrating the individual is really important at the moment in society. And I think it just, like with Emmanuel, for example, you know, you're creating something that you can really show your personality and what you like. And as well, another thing, I think it's interesting to watch how personalization has changed from when it first started. It was quite, I would say, superficial. It was like putting, you know, your monogram name on something. But now it's starting to move to like more of a deeper personalization. And I think it's quite functional as well, especially in skincare. It's, you know, it's what and it's kind of trust, I think, as well. You know, there's lots, the beauty industry is booming at the moment, and it's amazing. There's so many different brands, you know, so much hype between social media, TikTok. Everyone gets overwhelmed, don't know what to do. I think the overwhelm is a huge point. But it's that trust that, okay, someone's telling me that this is going to work for me. It's not just, you know, it won't make me break out, or it won't, you know, cause a reaction, or make that it'll go to waste. I think that's another kind of important point as well. The trust with the consumer and kind of a reassurance is personalization.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. So this is a bit of a devil's advocate question, and I think to a certain extent you might have already answered this in part. So I've been in the industry for quite a while, and probably about 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago, this was when we started, you know, hearing rumblings about, you know, the real uptick in bespoke beauty, and probably in some of the features we were writing then, we made it sound like it was going absolutely everything would be personalised, and of course you've got huge successes like yourself, Self-So Today, things like Functional Beauty, which you've mentioned, Il Maquillage, and then as Sam mentioned, there are some personalised products among the brand lineups of traditional brands. But guys, observationally, why do you think this skyrocket in bespoke beauty hasn't happened yet, and will it happen? Who wants to answer first?
I can tell you from experience, because it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, creating a bespoke product has got so many challenges in many ways. I was talking earlier about the fact that first there is no formula for it. So, you know, it's not like launching a product, which 90% of brands are doing out there. There is a clear formula and clear path in commercializing this product. You obviously go through all the tests, and then off you go, you do your marketing plan, etc. You put it off on the shelf, and that's it. It sells. So that's the lack of it. You have to be very creative as a brand, as a team, etc. You have to have a living product that adapts constantly to regulation, to demand, and it's not scalable. So I think for me, again, there is many creative ways of going around it, but that's, you know, an issue, because every brand that is launching a product wants to launch in like all continents possible. And, you know, like for instance, you know, we're not there yet, but I've been talking to China, for instance, and distributors in China. There is a massive issue in China. You can't actually mix things in China. So all products have to be packed and cello wrapped and ready sellable. So you can't have experience, even if you have your little stand, etc. So you've got still markets out there that are just like not, you know, ready for that. But and then of course you've got the entire education to do with your customers that you have here. Even in the UK, we have never really come across bespoke beauty before, and you're like, what is this? Tell me about this. And then you are there talking about your brand for half an hour, and then if you're lucky you convert, but then obviously a lot of people, not necessarily convert. So there is everything to build, I think, in this sector. It's very interesting, but there is a lot of barrier.
If it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yes, exactly.
I think it's going back to that regulations thing. I don't know how the regs allow you to do truly bespoke skincare. I've looked at it, I've tried to make sense of the regs, but if you really need to have every combination, CPSR, you have to do the notification. I think the regulations just aren't up to date. So I think that's probably been a big blocker for why we're not seeing loads of personalisation everywhere. I think the regulations need to be updated and allow it. But also at the same time, we need to make sure we're doing things safe, don't we? The regulations have all these safety assessments that need to be done, so we have safe cosmetics on the market. And if you're literally making 1 of a billion, you've probably never tested that product before. You don't really know, is the preservative system going to work? Is it safe? Will it have that shelf life? So I think there's still a lot of things to iron out there. I think also coming from the medical side, I need to see evidence that things work before I'll give it my stamp of approval. So the nice thing is about Skin and Me, we're working with evidence-based ingredients that have randomized controlled trials, the best evidence you can get. When we go into cosmetics, obviously the evidence is a lot less robust, I'd say. You get lots of suppliers providing the trials. It's often done in vitro, so in labs, often in vivo. So in-person studies are small, they're funded by the supplier, so you can't trust it as much. And then when you then overlay personalization, how do you actually prove that personalization is better? I'm standing up here saying it's definitely the future, but actually in the cosmetic sphere, I don't really know. I've not seen evidence in trial form that having a personalized product versus somebody getting another product that's not personalized is better. I'd love the the personalized area to do more robust research. No idea how you do that, because the whole point of a trial is you get loads of people, give them all the same thing and tell them how it works. But there's going to have to be some way to show that this personalization leads to better outcomes for customers in the cosmetics area.
So essentially, the existing structures just don't really work with the personalisation approach, which is a bit of a shame. But with this so popular, one can see it potentially catching up. It just does take time. Yeah. So my next question was going to be, what are the challenges involved? But I think we've semi-answered that. But beyond what's just been mentioned, the education, the regulatory, the international approach as well. What other challenges have you guys experienced in this area?
I think the biggest challenge for us definitely is time. So bespoke and personalized takes time, and the mentality of the consumer at the moment is Amazon Prime mindset. Everything needs to be tomorrow delivered and perfect. So science takes time. What we're doing takes time. It can take on average, once you swab your cheek and send it back to us, it can take 2 to 3 weeks for our scientists to extract everything from the swab, sequence it. It's then sent to our scientific skincare advisors who look at the composition of the microbiome, see that this bacteria is being overproduced. We need to reduce that one, so we'll recommend this product because that ingredient helps combat that. It's super time intensive. So that's something that's hard for the consumer to understand, and the way we've tried to bring them on the journey with us, and it's just communication, but it's been definitely a challenge. People can't really wrap their heads around the fact that it takes 2 to 3 weeks for something to be analysed and brought back to them. So I think that's definitely something that we've seen as a challenge, and I'm not sure how long it takes if it's the same in perfume, and probably the same with Skin and Me. Well, probably more upfront, trying to find the
microbiome
formulations.
Is extremely complex. I've tried to get my head around microbiome for a while.
Yeah,
I'm really impressed that you're managing to do it. It's very difficult.
It's not me, thank God. It's the scientists. We've got great scientists.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's time to make the product, but it's also time to explain the product. Mm-hmm. And obviously that is a cost for a brand. Obviously, when you are able to sell the same product to everybody and no one has to do really research, you can just. But when you have to explain, then it's also time from a staff perspective. And so obviously when you have to start explaining your product for half an hour to an hour and actually create it from scratch, then that also has some challenges. Again, scalability, if you're a huge company, perhaps you can have like 10, 20 members of staff on the stand at Selfridges, but obviously when you're new and small, and I think most companies who do bespoke are actually startups. So I think you have to, because you have to have this creativity and that kind of mindset of, but then, yeah, I think this is another issue. Sorry, there's a lot of issues. It's not plain sailing.
No, this is good. This is what we're here for, to unravel them, and it's a bit of a case study, right? So the title of this panel is, of course, the future of personalisation. So essentially, what developments are we seeing? What are you guys working on as regards, the application of science or tech to this area? Possibly, Samantha, should we start with you as a bit of a kind of overview, industry overview?
Yeah, I think so. I think, as you say, I think it's really interesting. I do think there's so much kind of science and technology coming into play, but I do think there's an element as well where I do think there's a need to really kind of humanize kind of personalized beauty a little bit as well, and really think about, what is it that the consumer wants from personalized beauty? What do they need? And how can you kind of reach them? Because at the minute, I think one of the big things that we've seen, and why we've not seen it kind of maybe explode in the way we would have expected it to, is that, things like price remain a huge barrier. Isn't always the most accessible, and so that is something that definitely I think we're going to start to see come through more and more, is how we can kind of offer different tiers of personalisation. So you're never going to get kind of fully bespoke, or certainly not in the near future, but it's around kind of making sure that there's a level of accessibility. And another point that kind of stems on from that is around kind of accessibility from a more general perspective as well. So thinking about where these products are available, and not everybody has it isn't down the road from Oxford Street and has the kind of ability to go into store and get these products. So it's about kind of making it a little bit more accessible from a kind of distribution point of view as well. Obviously online massively helps there, but I think one of the things, and we've kind of said it in a couple of times here, right, is that education around why this is important and why it's valuable for the consumer. So thinking about how you can get it in front of more consumers. So we've seen some really interesting things happen in the US. There's some good retail partnerships happening. So I think Target has started offering a kind of personalized skincare brands kind of test kits. They're selling them in store, so it's just kind of putting that a little bit more visible. There's another, I think Walmart have got a is it the Hair Labs or something along those lines. Similar again, they can kind of have those in-store tests, which means that it kind of puts it a little bit more front and center for more consumers, because the majority of consumers still do shop in store. That's their kind of primary purchase channel, even if that shift is happening. So it's really about kind of, as I say, the future for me is around that kind of accessibility layer from the consumer point of view, because to get buy-in, consumers need to know what these products, what these brands are, what they do, and why they offer kind of value for money, so to speak.
Fantastic. And the rest of the panel, what do you think is the future of personalisation in beauty?
So I was thinking, going back to my problems around the regulations and being able to do all this testing and actually getting data to prove that it's worthwhile doing, I think AI is probably going to be the answer. I think we've got huge data sets now, especially like when you're doing things online, you're doing questionnaires, so it's going to be, we've got millions of data points. We can't just shove that into a machine and then start getting machines to do everything, because we're doing prescription. But cosmetic companies absolutely can do this. They've got huge amounts of data. They can kind of get that feedback loop where you find out what works, what doesn't work, and it will get better. You'll train that data to be able to make better personalized choices. So I do think that's probably that will be the solution in the future for the kind of getting data to back up the right kind of personalization. And the other thing that I was thinking about, I'm not sure if anyone's seen this, but I was L'Oreal have a at-home device that's kind of, this is the future of personalization as well. I was very excited when I seen this. It's almost like a 3D printer. It's a device that sits in your bathroom countertop, and it will print or make anything from foundation to lipstick to skincare products. I can't remember the name of the actual product. It was meant to have launched last year and it hasn't fully launched. I think they've got a lipstick maker with Yves Saint Laurent, and you can literally take a photograph with the app of the dress you're wearing, whatever you're wearing that day, and it'll make the lipstick the exact same shade to match your clothes. So I think there's going to be a lot of explosive interest in that type of at-home device, and it doesn't sound like it'd be too expensive, around kind of £200 for this kind of bathroom cabinet device. Incredible.
Again, the price accessibility bit there as well. Fantastic. And Nicola, I mean, obviously you guys go quite granular. You focus very much specifically on the science of the microbiome there. Do you think that is very much part of the future of personalisation for skincare?
I think so. I think there's a lot of things that have happened in the past few years with COVID. Sorry to say that word, but I think there's a deeper understanding and respect, even more of a respect for science, and also beauty was one of the first. The technology in the beauty industry. I think beauty was one of the first industries to really take COVID and just turn it around for themselves. They're doing virtual consultations, AR, augmented reality try-ons, etc. And I think for me, the marriage of science and technology, which is kind of what Skin Trust Club is doing, bringing the science, making it accessible in your hand, which is what everyone wants, is the future for us. For example, with our recent collaboration with Meter Beauty, we're looking to make it a tool in the future for dermatologists. So dermatologists can test their patient's skin with Skin Trust Club, look at what's going on, and then be able to really target specific skin concerns and help skin health, and then for it all to be done on a system in the office where they can see, they can track a patient monitoring tool essentially. And skin health, I think, is like quite a big thing that's going to open up. It's one out of 3 people are suffering from skin conditions at the moment in the world. So I think 44% of our users identify that they've got a skin condition when they open our app. So I think that's something that's that's what we see as a big step for us in the future of personalisation. Yeah.
The problem solution skin health aspect, lovely. Yeah. And Emmanuel, how about for you? Where do you see yourself going over the next couple of years regarding personalisation?
Yeah, so I think perfume is quite a category apart. It's not, doesn't have that high tech kind of aspect of it, and it's a lot more kind of hedonistic and kind of linked to fashion, etc. I like that idea of AI, but I don't think for perfume is quite there yet. And there was a company that launched a couple of years after me, and actually they folded. They were based in France, and they were called, they were working under the 2 large names, Bosch and Puig. So backed by very big names in the industry. Bosch was helped them make the machine, and Puig helped them make the perfumes. And so essentially what they were doing, kind of similar to what we do at EPC, which means that you work with fragrances, pre-made fragrances, but you work with a machine, and the machine kind of put this together, and you were going through a consultation online or face-to-face, and then they had a library of 30 different fragrances, and then you could put it together. But it didn't survive the pandemic. It also didn't probably survive all of the hurdles that they had to go through this. The company folded 3 or 4 years after and I was actually really disappointed, because I thought, oh my God, this is really cool. And so I guess for me, it's still a question up in the air, really, because I can see that this machine, one of the huge issues, that the machine was costing €400 or something, 400-500 euros. So how, unless you love perfume, but how can you, and that is not even without the perfume, it's just a machine. And so again, down to price, I guess. One thing that I see also, we haven't talked about it, but personalization comes with doubts as well. So if you put in the hands of the customer the idea of him making his own perfumes or product or anything like this, there's going to be a lot of kind of
am I good enough?
Is that okay? Can I do it? And so I guess whether it's with a machine or whether it's with a person, there's always been that kind of barrier. How do you empower the customer enough so that eventually they are really happy to do it on their own? But yeah, sorry, I didn't really answer the question, but I think it's a big question mark.
It is a big question, and it's very specific to each sector. And as you say, it's I think with fragrance as well, it's such an intensely personal aspect anyway, isn't it? So it's maybe slightly different.
It's very hedonistic, yeah, I think. That's the difference, is that there is no kind of data backing of like, I mean, I know that there's so many customers who come to me and saying like the ultimate of personalization for me is to have a perfume that's match my skin type, which
I can see you rolling your eyes.
you know, it's because a lot of people think, and to a certain degree it's true, that perfumes is different on different people. So that is true to a certain level, but it's not as magical as what most people think. And so some people would think, oh, would be the ultimate, just like match me with my perfect skin type, etc. So perhaps that's the future of perfume, I don't know. It's going to be a lot of research and money behind this.
All right, guys. Does anyone in the audience have any questions for our panel? I think I've commanded their attention long enough. Anyone? Does anyone here have a personalised brand or work with a brand that offers a personalised service like Samantha was talking about? Oh.
Fantastic. So I'm from Beauty Buddy. We're an app that users download and rate and review their beauty and cosmetic products, but like that they fill in then, once they've left over 10 reviews, what their skin type, any concerns they have, and then we partner with brands to send very targeted products for those issues. And but like that, the app came from overwhelm, people not knowing what, there's two sisters set it up and they don't know. They were out shopping one day for foundation brush, didn't know what product to go for. So that's where it came from, that you scan a product's barcode to read reviews from people, just regular people, and it's not, it's just people like you and I. So, but where we would like to go with it is that based on your profile, you can get recommendations for cosmetics and skincare, and that people with a similar profile to you have rated this 5 stars. So that's yeah.
Definitely a different angle there. Nice, excellent. Anybody else have any questions for our panel?
Not a question.
Oh, not a question?
No, we just do personalization in a different way.
Oh, do you want to tell us about it?
I don't. Hi guys. I work at The Unseen, which is a color cosmetics brand, and I would say personalization isn't necessarily a foundation of what the brand stands for, but it is kind of an outcome of what one of our products is able to provide a customer. We did a collaboration with Schwarzkopf Professional, and we have this temporary hair dye that changes color based on temperature and light exposure. So in a way, there's no guarantee that 2 customers are ever going to have the same effect on their hair, just based on what temperature their body's at, what environment they're in, how they're going about their day. So it's not as prescriptive as like what you guys were talking about. It's not skincare by any means, but it is definitely different by each person, I would say.
Very interesting. I've seen a lot of that in packaging, whereby for each individual piece, let's say the finished product is unique, even though it's done by the same processes. But I like that. That's again another really interesting angle. Lovely. Yes.
Sorry, no, not me. Just fixing my hair.
Okay, I thought that's a hand going up. Lovely. Okay, well, if there's no more questions from the audience, you can grab any one of our panelists gently outside, and we have a space in room A, which is really good for kind of one-on-one meetings if you would like any further questions or are feeling a bit shy. But to round up, guys, based on your experience and obviously your observations as well, what pieces of advice would you give to someone interested in launching a bespoke brand, adding a bespoke product to their lineup, or indeed, starting an app or whatever it might be in this space? Who wants to go first?
I'll start. When I'm looking at making a product or formulation, the first thing I would look at is the evidence for the ingredient that you're trying to include. So look at what your customer wants, what you're trying to achieve for them. Is it brightening? Is it acne? Is it fine lines and wrinkles, and then go and look at the evidence for the ingredients. And I would say go to the evidence not just from the supplier. I think suppliers are amazing at selling you guys ingredients, but often the evidence for those ingredients is just not there. So go and look for proper peer-reviewed published data that actually shows you what ingredients have evidence and what concentrations that they have evidence for. I think that's a really important point when you're starting on that personalization journey.
I think if you're going to create a personalized brand, it definitely needs to be at the core of what you do. It should be the first word that the consumer thinks of when they see your brand. And that's definitely and having the right, being like expert led, so having the right people and the right team when you're trying to build something like that. And then for a branded product, I think that's a bit easier, like go for that. I think it's a very tactical play. You can play into, gifting or seasons and limited editions, and that's kind of an easier one, and that can just keep you top of mind in the consumer, and kind of bring your brand front and center.
Fantastic. And Emmanuel, what do you wish somebody had told you, years ago?
So it's interesting because although I am a perfumer by trade, I've worked at Mintel for quite a few years, and so some people would think that I picked up that personalization trend from talking so much about it through Mintel, but I didn't. I just really love my industry, and I love perfumes, and I'm a big passionate. I've been working in this business 15 years. Having learned about perfumery, that's from like when I was 15 years old, so that was a long time ago now. And for me, personalization is not so much of like that buzzwords or, I'm going to launch a brand around personalization. It was very much born out of, passion and wanting to share what I knew about, perfumes and one of the advice that I would say to someone who wants to launch a brand in bespoke is actually do it, because the chances that like in 6 months' time it will look very different. Because as I say several times, and it's very true for what I've done, what I build with EPCs, like I keep on adapting the product as I go along, every year, every 6 months, and it's very much about that one-on-one communication with the customer that you can make your product better, because ultimately the product is made for them. So you can do like an amazing business plan and have like an amazing team, and I think you should probably do that, but also you should also probably just do it and see how it goes and adapt your product as you go along.
Dive straight in.
Perfect. So I'm going to bring it back to the consumer and just really, know why you're doing what you're doing, know who your consumer is, what they want. We so often at Mintel get so many kind of clients coming to us who have got their eyes on what all their competitors are doing, and you quite often just want to say to them, just know who you are as a brand, and kind of it's obviously good to have that competitor knowledge and have that in the background, but on top of that, it's really important to, as I say, have a focus point and understand why you're doing it, because otherwise you will get lost trying to follow others. And I think the most interesting innovations in this space are always the ones that are a little bit unique and stand out and offer something different, and offer something that the consumer really wants. So that would be my advice.
So essentially know yourself, as it were. Wonderful. So as a final thought of the day, starting with you, Jason, and working our way back, I want you to tell us in a line, in a sentence, what is the future of personalisation? On the spot.
I think it's what we've been roughly talking about. I think we're going to get to a position where a customer will come with their specific needs, and we'll be able to, and I'm more thinking about the formulation, we'll be able to formulate something that's truly bespoke for them, so the right ingredients at the right concentration for them to get like what they really want to achieve.
Fabulous. And Nicola?
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting time to be part of in the beauty industry, and I think it's only going to begin to continue to grow, and probably even more brands, more things. And I guess personalization is just the way that we cut through and help the consumer navigate that. So that's what I see it as.
Lovely. Emmanuel?
Yeah, so for me, personalization is really need to move away from like just putting a label with your name on. And I think, I guess this is all what we do is personalization through the formula. And I think that's the most important, is like that deconstruction and, making people being able to put these A plus B plus C together in a formula in the way they want and in a way works.
Lovely. And finally, Samantha.
Yeah, for me it's all about accessibility, and it's about understanding the kind of gateways to personalisation and the kind of steps you can take along the way, and the tiers that you can offer through personalisation. And as I say, to make it mainstream, I think that is going to be very important.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys all so much, Nicola, Jason, Emmanuel and Samantha. You have been a truly excellent panel, as I'm sure our audience will agree.